As someone who's been playing for well over 5 years, the idea of starting over isn't really appealing to me, but I do have a lot of experience and a lot of mistakes I made along the way to help you make the right choices. And our first choice is going to be our civilization. And my simple self, when I first started, I immediately picked Rome because I saw Scipio, a big dude with two swords, and I was immediately sold. I did not need any more convincing. I did not even look at the buffs right here. I just chose Rome. But what you should do is pick China. China has very good early game buffs, and it has the best epic commander in the game, Sun Tzu. So what makes China so good is it has bonus to building speed. In the early game, that's your gameplay pretty much. Like you're going to be upgrading buildings every day pretty much for, I would say, a couple weeks even, because the progression is simply that quick in the early game, and it saves you speed ups and time along the way. You got action point recovery, which is good because it's your resource for dealing with barbarians. Barbarians give you also experience, speed ups, and resources. And then we have the troop defense, which is good all across the board, and there's no downside to it. And what I advise you to do is start over in a new kingdom because you're going to be more familiar with how the pacing of the game goes. And don't worry, there's always a new kingdom every time you log in. So you're always going to be just in time. Once you enter a kingdom, I want you to join an alliance as soon as possible because there's a lot of benefits to be had from being in one. And ideally, you want to join the alliances with most power because it's a good indicator they might be the leading alliance in the future to come. And they're probably going to have spenders, which are going to give you even more bonuses to already stacked amount of bonuses you're going to have being in the alliance, such as having alliance helps, which reduces the time you need for building to finish, research to finish, and depending on the time needed, it can be quite a big help to save your speed ups. Also, you can do is claim free gifts, which give you even more action points, resources, and if there is spending involved, you get gems, you can get VIP points, keys, and so on and so forth. But also, it's an opportunity for you to familiarize yourself with other players because this is quite a social game, and making friends is a good tip to know. So to make yourself more appealing in a new kingdom, you want to increase your power, and there are a couple of ways to do it. There's building power, there's research power, training troops, and commander power. So building power, I already mentioned, we have a great bonus for that. And you want to make sure that you upgrade your city hall, which is your most important building for progression. And I would say try to go, like, I would say rush, but try to get to level 16 or actually 17 because it gives you 4 dispatch queues. And at level 5, oh, level 5 gives you a 23. So City Hall 17 is kind of a good place to kind of rush into it, but don't neglect your buildings in the process because having more hospital capacity and having more resource storage, especially storage, I would say, because the more you upgrade it, the more resources can be saved in case you get attacked. This might happen in the early game because the kingdom is not established yet and there are really no sets of rules involved just yet. So another way to get power is research, and there's two types of researchers. There's the economy and military. The goal of research is to try to get to tier 5 troops, which are the strongest tier of troops in the game, as fast as possible. But some people on purposely do not unlock them because they do get you a lot of power, but they also take a lot of your resources to maintain. And a lot of people, including myself, use T4s in that game because they're actually less resource use needed to maintain. But you want to progress into the economy, and before you start doing any of these starter economy technologies, I want you to scroll out your map. You want to click this explore button, and you want to see these little villages on the map. So these villages can give you like resources, speed ups, but most importantly, they can give you those starting technologies for free. So it saves you a lot of speed ups and saves you a lot of time as you go on. but the goal is to try to reduce the research speed that you need. So engineering is a good technology to focus, and mathematics as well. But the technologies, I said, try to reach tier 4 units. I think they're the most used. And unless you plan to have a lot of farm accounts, you can worry about T5s later. I'm just going to say that. Okay, so we got car building, we got technology, we got troops. So troops, there are 4 types of troops in the game. We got the infantry, we got cavalry, we got archers, we got siege. And of course, it performs the rock, paper, scissors principle, where infantry counters cavalry, cavalry counters archers, archers counter infantry, and all of them counter siege. Infantry is the slowest or second slowest behind siege. Cavalry is the fastest in terms of march speed. T5s are the slowest on the field, while meanwhile T1s are fastest, but obviously T5s pack a lot more punch and a lot more durable, let's say, compared to T4, who are a bit faster, but they also take more damage compared to D5. And last, we've got the commanders. So commanders could be a whole different video on their own, but I'm going to give you a quick rundown. So we got 4 types of commanders. We got advanced, which are mostly used in the very, very early game, but also in gathering. Gathering commanders are used on the map to get resources, and you don't want to level them past level 40 because it's relatively useless. You don't gain any much except style points. Next up, we got the elites, who are basically just even more gathering commanders that you have at your disposal. So once again, level 40 is the max, I would say, in the early game. Then we got the epic commanders, who are going to be your bread and butter in the early game because they are the most versatile and less expensive to maintain compared to the legendaries. So we're going to get, with our starting civilization, we're going to get Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu is a great commander because he has area of effect damage, and he also is a garrison commander. So I would prioritize getting him to level 60 because he could be used on your wall in case you need protection. A pairing we want to use in the early game with Sun Tzu is probably going to be Bjorn Ironside. Bjorn Ironside is another infantry commander, and they have a lot of synergy because they also do skill damage, and Bjorn makes targets take more skill damage, and it's a great combo to have. If you want another combo of another troop type, I would say Baybars is your best bet. Baybars is a cavalry commander who has a lot of AoE and also has a lot of ability. And you can pair him with someone like Ethelflaed. Ethelflaed is a free legendary commander who you can obtain in the expedition, which we're going to talk about very soon. And she also does a lot of AoE damage and can be used as slowing march with their skill. Is it? Yeah, second skill has march speed reduction, so you can make any targets on the field quite slow, which is quite good in the open field. And the way to get Ethelflaed is through the expedition, which is Rise of Kingdoms campaign, in which you complete these little objectives on the map. And the faster you get them all to 3 stars, and the faster you complete as much as possible, the more currency you get to use in the shop. As you can see, I'm not running out anytime soon, but it's a good place to get more sculptures, which are used to upgrade your commander skills. And also you can find some stars, which are used to upgrade the levels of commanders. Every 10 levels, you're going to be obliged to upgrade with stars. So it's also a good, decent income of stars. And at the start of the game, I want you to focus on Constance. Constance is the elite gathering commander, which gives you even more resources upon completion of gathering. So she is a great, probably the best elite gathering commander. And then after that, go for Ethelflaed. And you cannot use any universal sculptures onto her, so you're going to be purely relying on this shop to get her expertise or max. Ethelflaed is one of the few commanders in the endgame that can be seen having some use because she also gets a stat increase after a certain period of playing, which she gains more attack, more march speed, which is always nice to have. Now, to make your leveling experience faster, you can use a peacekeeping commander. So a peacekeeping commander is a commander who has peacekeeping tree, and they have a way to get more experience for battling on the map, such as barbarians and barbarian forts. So you can use these commanders to level up the others who want to use in a battle. and for gathering, for example. Another good way to get more stars and sculptures needed for the upgrades is going to be the tavern, where you have the silver chest and the golden chest, and later on the equipment chest. I would say these two have quite a diminishing value. They become very, very valuable as soon as you start the game, and the more you play, the less value they bring because the commanders that are in these chests, once you reach a certain amount of playing time, they really diminish in value. I would say like maybe half a year in, maybe a year in, they lose a lot of value because they're not as applicable in the late game. So if you have a lot of gold key rewards and if you're in alliance who happens to have a lot of spenders, you may occasionally get golden keys, silver keys. Open them and use them because later they're not might be as valuable as you think. Which brings us to the point of the legendary commanders. So the legendary commanders are the most powerful, but they're also the most risky for a new player to dabble in because in the early game, there's not a lot of ways to get these universal sculptures that are needed to upgrade them. And legendary commanders require the most sculptures to expertise max. And in the early game, there are a lot of, I would say, trap commanders that are used to lure you. Well, I wouldn't say lure you, but once you reach the end game, their value is simply gone. So commanders that might be good in the early game, let's say for example Khan, is totally useless in the end game. So I want you to be very careful with how you're allocating these legendary sculptures and stars because you don't want to level them up to level 60. They take more XP to level. So I wouldn't really push above 40 because 40 is when you unlock all the skills unless you really plan to use them as a primary commander. And there aren't that many candidates, I would say, apart from Ethelfleth, which is already a free commander. We're going to be using her in a lot of instances. But for others, try to keep it level 40 and try not to spread sculptures around because I did that and it did not really work. So I advise you to not repeat my mistake. Another way to get more sculptures and more passive bonuses is upgrading your VIP. So VIP is a lot of buffs, and the more buffs, the higher the level, the more buffs you receive, and the higher numbers of it are. And the one instance I would push first is VIP 6. You're going to get to this level relatively fast. You can use gems, you can use VIP points that you might get passively. And you want this because it unlocks our second building queue, which gives us options to power up even more. And from here, I want you to focus to VIP 10. This is our introduction to having legendary commander sculpture income. And from here, then we want to go to VIP 14 because it gives you 3 commander sculptures per day. And this is a good place to momentarily pause on VIP because this is the maximum number of sculptures we can receive per day up to this point in time. It gets quite expensive the more levels you get into, but you try to time it with events such as mortar gems to use to get more value. And you can also, to speed up the process, if you're feeling more adventurous, you can gather gem nodes on the map with your main account, so the account you're trying to push, and you have more accounts made to be farming resources for you, aka farms. So this is a great strategy because a lot of players use this system, not just to farm gems, but to also prepare for the late game, which uses those notorious T5 troops I mentioned, because they are very, very expensive to maintain. And the only way to maintain it consistently is to have a big income of resources coming in your way, especially gold. So if you see a lot of players with a lot of farms, that is probably the reason why. While you're starting out, you might be overwhelmed with so many things to do, but just take it slow. Just make sure that you complete the daily objective every day. It's relatively easy, and along the way, you will get rewards, which are going to help you speed up your growth and give you more variety of items needed to progress further. So just take it slow. Always make sure that you're building something if it's necessary. always make sure that you're researching something, training troops, and hopefully I do advise you to clear out the map when it comes to clicking all these villages and getting all these caves, because these caves actually give you a decent amount of speed ups, resources, and gems. So as your kingdom progresses, hopefully it stabilizes. You might be involved in a war, or maybe, hopefully not. And hopefully your kingdom stabilizes once the central building on the map is captured. And from that point onwards, your kingdom should be preparing for their first KVK, which is Kingdom versus Kingdom, where you teleport to a different map and you fight it out for the central objective, which is the Great Ziggurat, kind of like the Lost Temple I just mentioned. There's actually a lot of KVK stories, each with their own storyline, mechanics, and gameplay. So you're going to be experiencing a lot of these, hopefully. And if you're thinking about starting this game, I do want to say a disclaimer, so I don't want to like mislead anyone. Rise of Kingdoms is a city builder war game, but it is primarily a war game. So if you're interested only in the city building aspect, such as improving your city, getting all these decorations and whatnot, this is not really a game for that, because any semi-decent or semi-competitive kingdom wants to prepare for the KVK, because that is the main goal. It only happens every like 2 to 3 months, and it is basically everything that we do outside of KVK is preparing for the KVK. And if you're not contributing to that effort, you might get a pass once, but if you continue to not perform, not show up, you will be asked to leave or reduce power, or if you not respond to any of these, your city might get attacked. So I strongly advise you to really go into the game with the right mindset. And if you're interested in more of these, you can contact me via Discord, link in the description. If you want to know something specific I can help you with, I'll be more than happy to. So if you're interested, there is a PC version, and if you want to play, you can find the link in the description as well. And with all that said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.